Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is the 30-minute chart of silver provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. Now you can see that we've got some strange volume coming in here as we're approaching some very key points. I'm still banking on the fact that they're going to do a big smash down. I've believed that for about the past month, and the chart seems to confirm it, although we're seeing some bizarre volume. Now, if we go into the 1-minute chart, you can see this whole volume area here. This is after hours. So we're talking, 25,000 contracts. Now, just to put things into perspective, the U.S., we know that the U.S. mines about 50 million ounces of silver per year. Also sells around that much in Silver Eagles. The Silver Eagles have been overtaking the amount of silver mined domestically, which implies that they have to import it to mint those. And we've seen the shortages and they term allocation, which really is just another term for shortage. But you can see kind of a heated battle going on here with this volume. Now, like I said, 10,000 is going to be that 50 million. So we've got 25,000. So you're talking, and I've pointed this out before, you're talking years and even decades of silver that is traded back and forth. Production, years of production worth, decades of production worth. Here's 175,000, almost 200,000. So you're talking a billion ounces of silver changing hands. So it looks like the speculators are getting in place, possibly to put in a bottom. We don't know. Some have speculated that perhaps the shorts are going to do one last push, cover their shorts, and go long. We don't know. We just have to wait and see. But we do know that a very large amount of money can move this market tremendously. In fact, the billionaires can't play. That's something that I've pointed out in many videos, that this is the little guy's market. Physical silver, there isn't enough around for billionaires to even be involved. But I wanted to look at a story that's going on. I don't really know what's behind this, but there's some very interesting things going on with the billionaires. So let's start out with this Donald Sterling story. Now, I know all of you know this. Sterling was recorded in his home with a conversation with his girlfriend, and he made some racial comments, racist comments, and this started this avalanche of criticism and this apparent forced sale of the team. Now, it's very interesting here because apparently he has been declared mentally unfit. And that's very interesting. That has to do with the trust. So I'll read a little bit of this. Donald Sterling's wife, Shelley Sterling, had him declared mentally unfit after he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, enabling her to push through former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer's $2 billion offer to buy out the Los Angeles Clippers. The family trust that governs the Sterling's ownership of the Clippers basketball team includes a clause that stipulates that if either one of them shows an inability to conduct business affairs in a reasonable and normal manner, they will be forced to cede control over the team. That's very interesting. Donald Sterling's two prominent doctors concluded that he suffered from Alzheimer's after performing a battery of tests, including CT and PET scans, and noted that he may have had the disease for as long as 5 years. So there's a lot of spin that could be put on this. Is Sterling trying to make a justification for his views, a cover-up? Is this something that they agreed upon? And I don't know. There's a million ways you can look at that. But that's not why I'm looking at this. This is one example of a rich Jewish billionaire who seems to be being taken down. Now, just recently we had the news story hit of Louis Katz. He's the one who won the fight over the Philadelphia Inquirer. He died in, if you look at the details, I would say a very mysterious plane crash. And this is just recently as well. Louis Katz, a co-owner of the Philadelphia Inquirer, who had recently emerged from a triumphant battle for control of the newspaper, died in a plane crash on Saturday night in Massachusetts. He was 72. Mr. Katz, a New Jersey native who rose to become a successful entrepreneur and prominent figure in local political circles, and his business partner, the cable magnate H.F. Lenfest, had just won a heated auction for the Inquirer. It goes into his history. Basically, Katz was another rich Jew, wheeler dealer, and he is now dead under what I will say somewhat mysterious circumstances. Third story just hit yesterday. Carl Icahn, another rich Jew billionaire. Allegations of insider trading against billionaire investor Carl Icahn and professional golfer Phil Mickelson. U.S. authorities are looking into whether the famous investor tipped off Mickelson and Walters on his plans regarding several companies, including Clorox. Quote, "It's a stretch that the government gets Icahn on breaching any duties," said Jonathan Streeter, partner at Detcher LLP and former prosecutor in the Rajanaram trial. He's the principal of a hedge fund and decided what he does with the information. So very interesting. So here we have 3 billionaire Jews who are all taken out in one way or another very quickly, all near the same time. What does this mean? Now, I'm not really sure what it means, but I can speculate a little bit. First, I want to take you over to the story of Yukos. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but Yukos was a Russian oil company. Yukos was a petroleum company in Russia, which until 2003 was controlled by Russian oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky and a number of other prominent Russian businessmen. After Yukos was bankrupted, Khodorkovsky was convicted of fraud and sent to prison. Interesting that you say was bankrupted. Doesn't say went bankrupt. It says was bankrupted, and we'll see why. Yukos headquarters was located in Moscow. Yukos was one of the biggest and most successful Russian companies in 2000 to 2003. In 2003, following a tax reassessment, the Russian government presented Yukos with a series of tax claims amounting to $27 billion. As Yukos assets were frozen by the government at the same time, the company was not able to pay these tax demands. On August 1st, 2006, a Russian court declared Yukos bankrupt. Most of Yukos' assets were sold at low prices to oil companies owned by the Russian government. The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe has condemned Russia's campaign against Yukos and its owners as manufactured for political reasons and a violation of human rights. Yukos is cited as an example of political risk in international investing. And you can go down and see the details here. Basically, it was Putin and the Russian government pretty much seizing the assets and then jailing this billionaire. So a similar sort of pattern. What does it mean? Is it related? Well, the last story I want you to look at, this one is probably more shocking than anybody could believe when you look at the numbers, just the raw numbers here. This is from Forbes, and the title is "Friends Don't Let Friends Become Chinese Billionaires." Update: Chinese nationals aren't the only ones getting in on the China action, writes Business Insider. Tons of foreigners have also come to China to make their fortunes, and many have succeeded. Now, I'm no statistics whiz, but it seems to me that a Chinese billionaire dies every 40 days. China Daily reported Friday that unnatural deaths have taken the lives of 72 mainland billionaires over the past 8 years. Do the math. Which means that if you're one of China's 115 current billionaires, as listed on the 2011 Forbes billionaire list, you should be more than a little nervous. Mortality rate notwithstanding, what's more disturbing is how these mega wealthy souls met their demise. According to China Daily, 15 were murdered, 17 committed suicide, 7 died from car accidents, and 19 died from illness. And oh yes, 14 were executed. Welcome to China. I don't know about you, but I find it somewhat improbable that among such a small population there could be so many suicides, accidents, and death by disease. The average age of those who died from illness was only 48. I'm only speculating, but the homicide toll could really be much higher. Any way you look at it, of course, the life expectancy for the current crop of Chinese billionaires isn't pretty. Note, I would be remiss if I didn't remind Chinese billionaires, you know who you are, that China carries out the death penalty more than the rest of the world combined, according to Amnesty International. So by being corrupt in any way, shape, or form is simply tempting fate. Well, are they corrupt, or is it the party that's corrupt? So what's going on here? Is there a pattern? Is there something going on? I think there is. Now, Russia and China, of course, we know that these are totalitarian communist nations. China has done a much better job of freeing up the free market to run, but obviously that's within constraints. And it appears that the Chinese government has decided that the market has produced enough wealth, perhaps, and it's time to gather up some of that wealth. That certainly appears to be what happened with Yukos, and there were a number of others that I don't have the records for, but state takeovers of businesses in Russia. So I think the question is the same sort of thing happening here now in the United States with these 3 rich Jewish billionaires all being taken down at the same time? I think that might be the case. Now, it's kind of interesting to think about the fact that a lot of the commentators on the discussion boards and just about everywhere you go, whether it's on Zero Hedge or Godlike Productions or Drudge Report or anything that allows comments, YouTube, of course, my blog, we've had to battle it, and the YouTube channel, etc. And all of the comments are the anti-Semitic variety of the Jews control the world, and the Jews are trying to take over the world. They control everything. They control all the media. So my question would be, if that's the case, then why is it these 3 Jewish billionaires are being taken down? Perhaps these Jews are being allowed to accumulate wealth, something similar to what happened in Russia and China, but then someone is wrapping up the show. So that's kind of ominous for the United States. It doesn't surprise me. It seems like the United States is following in the footsteps of totalitarian Russia and totalitarian China. And these are societies where you're allowed to operate in the free market as long as you don't cross the wrong people. If you cross the wrong people, then you're going to probably end up dead. And it seems like perhaps the same thing is starting to happen here in the United States. So back to the chart. It's very important that we see these volumes coming in. Now, one would think that the speculators on the long side would be done because they've been burned so many times. But ultimately, at some point, they're going to be right. And I think there's always some gamblers out there who are hoping to catch the bottom. I don't know where the bottom's going to be. I'm thinking that they may try to make that run down to that $15 mark, down around here where your support is from the high that was reached back there in March of 2008. So I'm thinking that they may try to run things down there and bounce it back really quick. Certainly this is a game that, regardless of what your opinion is on the Billionaires, this is a game that the Billionaires can't play, and it looks like it's lining up to be a big event when this goes one way or the other. And we'll talk to you next time.